All right, everyone. Good morning. This is Seychelle Van Poole here with the Keller Williams, North Texas, New Mexico, and Memphis region. And I am here with a very special guest. We have Lesley Peters here with us, and she is from Keller Williams, Atlanta, and also is the co owner of the Peters Group. Hi, Lesley.
Hello, Seychelle. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we're just thrilled to have you on the call. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. So, a few of you may or may not know Leslie is has been up on stage at Family Reunion and Mega Camp several times with Gary Keller, both independently and also with her husband Andy. She runs an amazing team that we're going to talk about today. She and her husband also own market centers. They have a beautiful family, and something I really appreciate about Leslie that I'd like for us to focus on today too is that she's a great mom and a very present wife in addition to all of that. And I think it's a really hard thing to juggle and balance. So we'd like to talk about that a little bit today. I've had a few requests for you. So we're going to dive into business. And then if it's okay with you, Leslie, we're probably going to talk some personal too on how you juggle it all. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, we are thrilled to have you. So, Leslie, talk to us a little bit about where you guys work and how you got into the business and what y'all do.
Absolutely. So, I have been in the business 12 years as of Halloween. I started in Atlanta 12 years ago. I was actually a school teacher, so I taught
Really?
kindergarten and first grade. Yes, can you believe that?
That's awesome.
Um, so yeah, I graduated from Furman University with a business degree and then was in a cube working for State Farm and hated the cube corporate life. So I thought, oh, I'll dive in and become a teacher. So I got my master's in teaching and then taught for 5 years. And in that fifth year of teaching, I just knew I was missing something. And I really wanted to get back into the business world in a different way. And my dad has always been a real estate investor, and he said, you know what, you should get your real estate license.
How
So
cool.
I got my license in October of 2005. And Andy, my husband, said, do not quit your day job. Let's make sure this real estate thing works. So I didn't tell anyone at the school that I was doing real estate too, and I was probably working 80-hour weeks. And by May, I had closed enough business that I had made the same thing that I had made in a school year. And Andy's like, this is legit. Like, you can quit.
We got to go.
So, oh my gosh. So I quit my job in May, and I was also pregnant with our first baby. So I had a really fast start in real estate. I think I sold 12 houses my first that first year, well, when I was teaching too. And then I immediately, when I went into that next year, I doubled it and I sold 24. And that was really with part-time childcare and no family in town.
Wow. So, with basically no support system and first time into, like, you obviously had a business degree, but coming straight out of teaching, which is a totally different world. So, no real estate background other than like seeing it with family. You went from 12 deals your first year, which I mean, I think we can say for any first year realtor, that's actually really good. All the while working full time too. And then the next
Yes.
year, when you focused in a little bit and was able to focus your time full time, then you doubled your business to 24.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
absolutely. And it was really cool. And that second year, or actually, I guess it was my first full year in real
Right.
estate when I
Right.
did 24. I was rookie of the year in our office. And I mean, it was an awesome year and I loved it. I mean, I was totally sold on real estate and just completely addicted.
That's awesome. So you go from 12 to 24, and then what happens?
So then Andy was actually promoted. So their family business that he had been working for years and years, drinking water business, they
Mm,
basically went in and replaced like bottled water coolers with like
mm.
inline filtration systems.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so they sold their family business, and Andy was hired as the sales manager for the Southeast.
Hmm.
So he started traveling when our youngest literally was a newborn. So he was
Perfect.
traveling Tuesdays to Thursdays every week. Yeah, it
Oh,
was lovely.
yeah.
And the whole time, Andy's going, God, this real estate thing, Les, like, this is great. Like, you're making as much money as me. And he's like, and I'm having to manage like 30 people. Meanwhile, I'm at home by myself with
Itty
literally like
bitties,
2 day a
yeah.
week childcare. And I'm taking like my newborn on inspections and showing appointments and all sort of stuff. So I'm just like dying in year 3.
So you went from having very little assistance in your first full year when you did 24 deals to really like no assistance your second full year in
Yeah.
real estate.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, they always say like you find help first, and to me it's almost like you had to do the reverse, where you went from at least having Andy in the area and obviously he's working but able to help, to literally, I mean, 2 days a week during the work week you've got no help. So what do you do from there? Like how did that push you?
Absolutely. So I knew by year 3 that something had to change.
Yeah.
Because he would literally come home on the weekends and I would hand him John Morgan and say, have fun. I'm going to show property all weekend.
Yeah.
And at that time I was 27 years old. So I was
Mm-hmm.
really heavy buyer business, right? I mean, we all remember those days when we don't have as many sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, honestly, I loved the job. I loved real estate. It was just too much and I needed something.
Yeah.
So we really started talking about, do I hire an assistant? Do I join a team? Because there were a lot of teams in Atlanta that were wanting me to join them.
Mm-hmm.
Or does Andy quit his job and join me?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I am not a crier. I am high ID, and I'm typically not a very emotional person.
Yeah.
And for about 6 months, I think I cried like every night he came home
Yeah.
and said, listen, you've got to quit your job and you've got to join me in real estate because I can't do this alone anymore.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's emotional for him watching that process too. Because I mean, when you're starting a real estate business, I think a lot of people get into it because it looks fun. You get to be with people, you get to control your own schedule, sometimes too much, right? And then they all of a sudden start
Right.
realizing that you're really starting a business from the ground up. And
Oh, 100%.
one of the benefits we're very fortunate to have with Keller Williams is that they have a lot of systems and models and tools for us to be able to use to help us shortcut that process. But ultimately, you still are building a business, and there's a lot of stress that comes along with that. So,
Right.
what was it
Oh,
finally that
absolutely.
convinced Andy to make the move over into real estate full time?
I think he was just fascinated with the business and he was watching it from, he had seen how successful I had been in such a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, I mean, I was 100% database business, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
people I knew. And he had sales experience. I mean, he was used to knocking on doors all day long selling products. And I think he finally just thought, gosh, if I can apply what I know in sales with what Leslie's doing on the business side into and form a real estate team, like we can knock it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2008, he literally decided to jump ship and he left a 6-figure salary job, plus commission and joined me in real estate. And, 2008 seemed like a really great time to get in for him.
It's funny how our market doesn't dictate our success, right? So
Right.
Andy smartly, just such a good crystal ball, gets in right as the market's turning in Atlanta, unknowingly,
Right.
I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And we had just bought, we had just bought a house and I got pregnant later that year with baby number 2. So it was definitely a lot of changes in '08.
and so from there, and I've got your history of the Peters Company units chart up right now. So you go then from 25 units or 25 sales in 2008 to Andy comes on board, and in 2009 you guys hit 34 sales. Do y'all have an assistant at this point?
No assistant. And
Wow.
at this point, I think we were a little frustrated. We were
Yeah.
like, gosh, Andy comes on and he only makes like a 10 unit difference.
Come on,
And
man.
and I really think that it was because there was so much overlap, and I coach a lot of husband wife teams, so I see this a lot, is that when you're a husband and wife, you don't specialize.
Right.
You each feel like your hands have to touch everything.
Mm.
So there was just so much overlap. We went on listing appointments together. We would pass buyers back and forth. I mean, it just we weren't following the model, right? I
Sure,
mean,
sure.
as much as we would have liked to said we were following the model, we really weren't. And there were a lot of inefficiencies,
Hmm.
and really that did not change until 2011 when we hired our first assistant. And if you've got that chart
I
up,
do, yeah.
Seychelle, I mean, you see when we hired our assistant in 2011, we went from 33 units in 2010 to 64.
So you almost doubled your business with one person.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
And she was so good for us because she really forced us into roles on the team
Mhm.
to specialize.
And so, I think clarity brings power and clarity also brings productivity, right? And
Right.
so what you guys saw, especially as a husband and wife team, and I think you're right, if you're truly in a partnership and a marriage, right, you're seeing that lap over into business too. And it sounds like Heather pushed you guys into roles. If I'm understanding that correctly, you guys actually got to stay in your lane, which is something Charmy and our team tells us all the time, which I love her for. And pushed yourselves into actual lanes where you guys were working. So, what part of the business did you start focusing on, and what did Andy start focusing on?
Absolutely. So when Heather joined us in 2011, we had never really lead generated before.
Hmm.
And even through the market shift, we really shifted into first time home buyers, and we were
Mm-hmm.
young at the time. So that seemed to be a great place to go. Um, and that's kind of what sustained us through the downturn, is really shifting our gears to first time home buyers.
Can we talk
And,
about that for a second, Lesley? Because our market
oh,
in the last 30 days
absolutely.
has crested. We have just seen the crest of our market. And for the first time from August to September in our market, we had month over month fewer home sales in every sales price category. And we had higher days on market across the board in every single price point. So we know we've just hit the peak in our market and we're 30 days into a shift. So if you've been through the downturn, we can see that you guys
Yes.
grew in the downturn. If you had advice for somebody coming into another shift, what would you recommend?
It's adaptability, right? And that's what we saw in the shift. I mean, we saw agents in our neighborhood that had been farming just our neighborhood, and they were probably making $500,000 plus, and the downturn hits, and those people are going and getting real jobs, right?
Wow.
They're
Yeah.
going back to corporate America
Hmm.
because their business is gone because they've only focused on one neighborhood.
Hmm.
And what happened in Atlanta was that the agents that were adaptable and had diversified their business, they were the ones that were thriving. And Andy and I had never just stayed in one specific neighborhood. And what we found during the shift is people weren't chasing an area, they were chasing a deal, right?
Hmm.
So they wanted to, if the suburbs had the greatest deal, then that's where they were going. Or if in town had a condo that was a good deal, that's where they were going. So
Hmm.
it was really about adapting to the market. And I'll never forget coming out of that downturn and just praising God that we had literally survived and had really fully focused on first time home buyers.
Hmm.
We said we will never lose the connection to first time home buyers.
Yep.
And we haven't. We continue to hire young agents that keep our database growing in that age bracket. Right now, I think we have 3 agents under the age of 30.
Awesome.
And it's just to, just to
To
keep
insulate.
us on the right path. Yeah.
I think that's great. So you adapted, you jumped in, you figured out whatever you
Absolutely.
had to do in a market where you were probably working at a higher price point before and you had to take a nosedive down to first time home buyers. So
Yeah.
you then adapt into that, and now you're getting into 2011, you do 64 units. In 2012, you do 90, and you hire Jenny. What does Jenny do for you?
So Jenny at that time was a brand new agent, and I
Okay.
love her story. She actually came to us and would beg for rental leads.
Mm.
And I mean, we all in Atlanta, we make like $300 off a
Uh-huh.
rental lead. It's barely pays your gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she would close it, and then she would come back and ask us for more.
Mm.
And so we told our team leader at the time, we said, look, like we really like this agent. We would like to get into business with her.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, listen, she doesn't need you guys. Like she can do this on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we started exploring it, our productivity coach at the time actually said, you know what? Y'all go look on her vision board. And it's in the Ignite room. She had a little cube in the Ignite room. They said, go look on her vision board. And if you can make a plan for her to get everything on her vision board, maybe you can get her on your team. So she wanted $75,000 and she wanted an Audi. And Andy and I said, look, like, we can get you there. We can totally get you there. So we met with her multiple times. We met with her husband because he really wanted the Jenny Mosier show. He wanted her name in lights. And we had to convince him that we could give her a huge life. Turns out her first year with us, she closes 24 units. She's 25 years old. Her second year at 26, she closes 44 buyer deals with us. And now she's our lead listing specialist. And I mean, she'll do almost 100 transactions this year on the listing side.
That's awesome.
So she's had it. I mean, it was really about
life.
Absolutely. And, you know, when we were approached last year about owning 3 market centers in Atlanta, it really wasn't about the money for us. It was really about creating bigger opportunities for our people because we don't want our world to get to be small and then they grow out and leave our world, right? So it was, let's take on these market centers. We give our people additional opportunity in the future if they want to be team leaders or MCAs, and we have a path to keep them with us, right?
That's right. Well, and if you're continuing to push your bubble bigger and your world bigger, it allows for everybody else to continue to grow too. And I think that's great that you guys are doing that. I think that's great you guys are doing that. So then you go into 2014 and you take a step back. What did that feel like?
Ooh. You know that,
I hear that.
So you know the whole, the E to P concept, right? That was that year. I feel like we had been moving along at this entrepreneurial state. And in 2013, we hit MREA with 127 units and 4 people. And January comes.
Which is very lean and mean. That's very lean and mean. Not many sales.
And we were all exhausted. It was like, I mean, we were just exhausted. We were like, how do we do this again, right? And we determined really quickly that we could not do this on our own. So in 2014, we hired our coach, Gene Rivers, and basically he changed our world. He pushed us to hire people faster. He pushed us to continue following the model. And he really, he gave us permission to fail, right? Like,
that's a powerful statement.
He just said, like, just go do it. It's okay. Like, you're not gonna win every day, right? So just go fail. Like, you've got to try. And so that's when we really started hiring. And if you look in 2015 on this graph, I mean, we went out and just blew it up in the latter part of 2014 and 2015 with people. And literally for the first time in almost 10 years, I felt like I had a life.
Wow. For the first time in 10 years, you finally had a life. And for the first time in 10 years, you felt like you had permission to fail.
Oh, 100%.
And it was okay.
And it wasn't about being perfect anymore, right? It was, let's learn, let's grow, let's make mistakes, and let's fail forward. Like, let's do this. And, I mean, the quality, I mean, for the first time in 2015, we could start taking vacations and not be glued to a phone.
Wow.
Or, I mean, we had people, right? We had a huge support system, and those people are still with us today. So all those hires we made, our retention has been incredibly high.
So just out of curiosity, what system do you guys use when you look at candidates, and where do you find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 awesome people that are still with you? Where did you find them?
Yeah. So Jenny and Dory and Shiloh were all in our market center.
Awesome.
So that just kind of organically happened. Caitlin, who you see that was hired in 2015, she came on as our transaction coordinator.
Okay.
We found her off Craigslist.
Wow.
And I mean, Craigslist, she's incredible. I mean, she she hires people now on our team. So she really, I think she'll end up taking the director of operations position one day. We're
That's
really
great.
grooming her for that. And we found her on Craigslist.
Wow.
I feel like a lot of our
That's cool.
best hires have really been through just networking and teaching. We found our expansion partner when we were teaching in her market center. So
that's awesome.
And Heather, our first hire, she was a client. So it's some of our best hires have been from our sphere.
That's awesome. And you put at the top of that slide, I'm just going to go back to it 1 second, then I'm going to go to your touches. On that slide, you put, for us, it's all about units. It's not about price. What made that distinction for you? Was it going through the downturn the last time where you had to give up your price point? Or what was it that led you to get to that point?
I think so. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's just economies of scale, right? We know that for every person on our team, averaged out between ops and agents, every person is worth about 25 units. Wow. So if our buyer's agents aren't closing 36 units a year, then we're overstaffed for them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really been about transactions and economies of scale. And we know that it's really the price will come. Mm-hmm. The price will truly come. And it really for us is just about making sure that we're going on enough appointments and closing enough transactions.
Right. Well, and I think when you look at it too, if you've got enough first-time home buyers coming into that pipeline and you're planning on being in business for a long time, this isn't like a fly-by-night business for you. You know that those buyers will move up with you if you treat them right, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're 88% repeat and referral business. I mean, we intend on having clients for life.
I think we need to turn down put that number, 88% repeat and past clients. That's incredible. 88%. Yeah. Y'all hear that? That's incredible. So transition me over. I'm going to your next slide, which is the history of your transactions. And what's really neat is you put over and out to the left how many touches per person, like per client you were doing or past client during that time. What was it that you guys discovered? Was there any correlation between the amount of business you were getting and the number of touches that they were getting?
So we really just started following Gary's model in 2011, and we started doing 33 touches. We were like, there's got to be something in this number, right? I mean, there's amazing teams all over the country that are doing huge production, and there's got to be something in the 33 touch. So when Heather joined us in 2011, we finally had leverage for me to lead generate and for us to roll out a 33 touch. And I think it's hard for an individual agent to get out 33 touches a year.
Yes.
I mean, that's not an easy task, right? And we get so sidetracked when we get busy in our business that's the first thing to go is the touches. So in 2011, when we got to 33 touches, that's when our business exploded. I mean, we doubled from 33 to 64. And I truly believe it was about, number one, getting leverage so I could do a 36 touch or a 33 touch program.
That's awesome. And so you took it up to that, and then you guys haven't changed it since, right? Like you hit that number and you've stuck with it.
Absolutely. And what's so interesting in 2015, because people ask me all the time, like, does a 33 touch really work, right? Well, in 2015, we had 1,000 people in our database. Okay. And if you use Gary's 12-to-2 ratio from MREA, which means that for every 12 people in your MET database, that you get 2 closed transactions, one from referral, one from repeat, then if we had 1,000 in our database, we should have had 166 closings, and we did 165. I
would say that's pretty good math. And it
works.
I've got you over to your additions to your 36 touch screen, just so as long as we're on the topic, I flipped over to that so you could take a look at it. So talk to me about what goes into your 33 touch. Does it matter at all what's in there, or does it matter that just something is going out?
It is all about the quality. And I know in MAPS, right, we've talked so much about avoiding mediocrity.
Right.
And so early on, when I was just sending 12 touches a year, I condition people to open my mail. So this was in 2006. If I'm
Okay.
sending out 12 mailers a year, they're going to be awesome.
Okay.
So early on, people were like, gosh, Lesley sends the most fun things. She sends Kool-Aid packets or or firework glasses or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Like, she's going to send us something fun. So it wasn't boring. And what I found by doing that and conditioning people early on to open our mail and get involved in our marketing
Mm-hmm.
is that if I increased touches, they still were involved, right? Because
Yes.
I had conditioned them early. And so that it was fun to me. So when we transitioned to 33 touches, we went from 12 mailings. We added one email newsletter a month. So that got us to 24. And then we upped it to get to 33. We started doing quarterly events. And so that just got us great belly to belly time with our people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love so much about quarterly events is it's not just an invitation. So we mail an invitation. They get a personal phone call inviting them, and they get an email inviting them.
Okay.
So literally that's 3 touches before the event. If they come to the event, you get 4 touches.
Right.
After the event, we email everyone and thank them and send them photos, right? Professional photos, because we found that we've always had a professional photographer because that gives us legs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is that event doesn't end with that event. That event continues to be plugged into social media where a slideshow is shared. Photos go out to everyone that attended. We also tell people that we miss them if we weren't there. So events are just an easy way to stay in touch with your database.
I think that was something that was really a big aha moment for me was when you were up on stage one time and you talked about the lead up and the touches that you have. But then to me, one thing that you mentioned was it was a key on the back end to make sure that you were letting them know that you miss them because nobody wants to miss out on a good time. Right. And so
Absolutely.
that for me was a big thing that I picked up from you guys. Y'all were the inspiration for us to add that to ours. Because I went, oh, you're so right. Everybody likes being missed and everyone doesn't want to miss a good time. They'll make sure they come next time. So I thought that was a great
Right.
addition that you guys did. And talk to me about that. Did you guys find you were picking up referrals from that point or how did that call go? Let's say I'm in your database and I didn't make it to your event. How would that phone call of we missed you go?
It would literally just be something like this, like, hey, Seychelle, it's Lesley with the Peters Company. How are you today? Right.
Hey, I'm great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to let you know that we had the most fun at the pumpkin patch last weekend and we missed your sweet family. And I hope you can join us at our next event. Have you received our invitation to our girls' night out in November?
Oh my gosh, I just saw it come in the mail the other day and I have it up on my fridge. I would love to attend.
Perfect. Well, it is going to be great. We're going to have an interior designer there talking about the latest trends in home design.
Oh, cool.
And I think she's even going to touch on some holiday decor trends that are going on. So I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait. And I'm sorry we didn't make the pumpkin batch, but I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Sounds great. We do it every single year. So you'll be invited again next year.
Awesome. I can't wait.
So it's really just about being personable, right? I mean,
I
hate to even say this.
I didn't see you at all in there saying, I sell real estate. I didn't see you at all in there saying, give me your clients or refer me business. Talk to me about that.
That's just natural. People know what we do. And so it's so funny. Like we call to invite people to events. That's the only thing we really lead generate for is the events. And it's amazing. We get into these conversations or can you come to the pumpkin patch? Are you going to make it to girls' night out? And it's like, so how's business? Right? Because I'm asking them how their business is. And it's so how's business with you guys? It's awesome. We're going to have our best year yet. I think we're going to sell about 225 houses. Right?
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
They're like, gosh, you guys are doing awesome. And then it's, if you know anybody that's looking to take advantage of this market, it's an awesome seller's market right now. In fact, if you price your property right, homes in Atlanta are selling in 10 days for 99.7% of list price.
Wow.
So it's just having those scripts because it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna transition into
And
real estate.
You're armed with stats in case they ask.
Oh, 100%. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to know your local market. I mean, Gary
Mm-hmm.
tells us to be the economist of choice.
Exactly.
I call it party chatter. And we teach this a lot in our market centers because everybody wants to talk about real estate and everybody wants to talk about their house. Well, I always have several stats that I'm armed and ready to use. And
Love that.
I know them, they change quarterly, and that's going to, and you seem smart, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
no other real estate agents are talking about their average sales price, and
Absolutely.
they're just asking for business. And I think it's so much more than asking, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate?
Right. Well, you're earning the right to have that conversation, which I think is what's getting you 88% repeat past clients. You're showing them you care. You're showing them you deeply care about them and adding tremendous value to their life. And by the way, I'm really good at what I do.
And, you know, Seychelle, you probably remember this, but we were in the room with Gary about 2 years ago, and he
Mm-hmm.
had us reading all these books on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a comment that rings so true to me, and I
Yes.
think about it all the time. He said, stop marketing and start serving people. And that's really what it is. So we want to be involved in people's life, right?
Right.
We want a lifelong relationship with these people. We don't want it a one and done.
Right.
So I'm not the person that's going to make 100 calls in a day because that's just not me, because I'm so interested in people's lives. Like, I want to be there for them. When their dog dies, they're going to receive a memorial from Atlanta Humane Society from the Peters Company. You know, we're going to be involved in their life.
I love that. So you're involved in your clients' lives. Talk to me about your organizational chart. I'm going to use that as a great opportunity to segue, which is talk to me about how you're involved in your team members' lives and what your organizational chart looks like.
Absolutely. So we always laugh about the lead agent because I'm not sure if that's Andy or me.
You know, knowing you two, I agree with that statement.
We're like, so which one of us is lead? I'm not sure, but we'll just roll with it.
I had that conversation for, I think it was like a 5-year jockeying back and forth, and we finally sat down and wrote job descriptions for both of us, and we had to sign them and agree to them.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
So currently, Andy is actually director of sales.
Okay.
So when Andy took on operating partner of 3 market centers earlier this year, we decided that, well, we knew that he was going to take on that role. And so we needed to replace him as a listing agent on our team. And he was the only listing agent, and he was selling almost 100 listings a year. And thankfully, Jenny Mosier, who was our lead buyer's agent, stepped over and has done an amazing job as lead listing specialist. So Andy's director of sales, so he runs the sales side of the organization. So he has coaching calls every Monday and 411s with the leaders, the lead buyer's agent, the lead listing specialist, and our expansion agent who's about to move into the director of expansion role. And then I run director of operations, and that really happened after the second baby. We decided that both of us could not have our phones ringing all the time, and that somebody had to be home on the weekends. Somebody kind of had to, you know, to be there when the kids needed us, right? So we divided our roles, and I started running the operations team. So I, the director of marketing, our transaction coordinator, our listing coordinator, our ISA, all report to me.
Got it.
So that's kind of how we've divided up the business. Now, is the director of operations probably the best use of me? I'm not sure. I mean, my goal is to replace myself in that position within the next year or two. Right now, it seems to be working. We have such a strong culture on our team. This year was the first year since we started that we ever had someone leave us.
Wow.
And we've let plenty of people go. We're slow to hire and quick to fire, right? But we're really involved with our team members. I mean, it's success through others. It really is. And we know that I mean, we want them to succeed. And
Mm-hmm.
we never hire just for the job.
Right.
We hire for the opportunity, you know.
Right.
Um, our ISA joined us 90 days ago. He's killing it. It's our first ISA hire. He came to us and said, look, he was a Cutco salesman for years. And he said, look, I love Keller Williams and I want to be a MAPS coach one day. And he has his NLP.
Awesome.
He's an NLP coach. And he said, I want to learn real estate. And it was really, gosh, if we can get this quality of individual as an ISA and show him a path for growth on our team, I mean, Katie bar the door.
Wow. That's awesome. So you're now building out ISA division. I see you over here, your 2017 hire list. I love that you guys have it where you check them off as you go. I think that's awesome.
Right.
So what does 2018 look like for you guys?
I laughed. I printed out our org chart and I said, gosh, we're not going to hire anybody in 2018. Our seats are full, I guess. No, we actually, so 2018 for us is really about building out the ISA division. I foresee us needing another operations person in 2018 because what we found, our average price point is about $350,000.
Okay.
So what we found is that we really have to be balanced between sales and operations because if we're not, then we're not going to keep that high repeat and referral business, right? Because we as salespeople love to think, oh, they do business with me because they love me. And that's not the case, right? They do business with us because our ops team has it together. I mean, they're the ones communicating with them from contract to close.
They're the
ones that are there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they're there answering the phone when they need them. They're returning their calls. And I think if we let our ops team slide, then we start losing referrals. And that's not going to happen in our world. Got it.
So adding to the ops because you need to add sales. And then I see this down below where it says 32 people, 800 transactions. What does that represent for you?
So everything that is gray or colored is actually a position that we have now.
Yep.
And then this sales team, we basically just look and say, okay, here are our next hires and where do we want to go next? We actually just hired our second expansion agent. We are in talks with 2 more expansion agents around the city. We're not expanding outside of Georgia. We're just really expanding in the metro Atlanta area so we cover all locations, right?
Right.
And when you think of Georgia, you think of the Peters. So we're really building out expansion next year and then the ISA division. And I have a feeling we will need another transaction coordinator next year.
Yeah. Well, and luckily it's already on your plan. Yeah.
Yeah, and for us, we look at this and we say, okay, if every single one of these boxes represents 25 transactions, let's do it. And that's where that number came from.
Got it. I think that's awesome. So do you think you guys can accomplish that with 2 listing specialists, or I guess 3 listing specialists?
What number is on that screen, Seychelle? I think that was our long-term plan.
Got 3.
Yeah, so
got 3 listing specialists and 800 transactions.
Absolutely. So we think that a good listing specialist can do between 100 and 125 units.
Okay. And what all are they doing?
So we probably need to add more.
This is something that my team and I have been talking about a lot. So I'm asking you a selfish question here for a second. So 100 to 125 transactions, right, is what you said? So
yes.
What all are they doing in the transaction, or like what all are they doing in the client process to get to that number? Like, are they in charge of lead generation, or is the ISA setting appointments for them?
The ISA is setting appointments. However, everyone on our team lead generates.
Okay.
So the primary role of the listing specialist is really to lead generate to our database, whereas the primary role of the ISA is to lead generate from cold lead sources, right? People that we do not know. Our listing coordinator is phenomenal, and she really does so much that it allows our listing specialist to take more listings.
Got it.
So when she preps all of her listing appointments. So really the listing specialist just goes on the appointment and she gains commitment then the listing coordinator sends everything. They actually go out and meet with the client and explain the showing process, what's next. They set up the photographer, the stager, all of that. The listing specialist gets it back the day it's listed just from a negotiation standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The listing coordinator gives weekly updates every week to the sellers and is their main point of contact.
Okay.
When we get an offer, the listing specialist obviously negotiates the offer and then attends closing. So what we find is our listing specialist is going on about 5 appointments a week.
Okay.
And she's 5 appointments a week, and her conversion is really good. I think we're over 90% conversion to listing this year.
And so then you're looking to replicate that business basically and continue.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And we've just hired our second listing specialist.
Okay. Very cool. I'll be excited to keep in touch with that as you guys grow that out, and we'll report back to everybody on this call and let you guys know how that's going, because I think that that's a hot topic in our region that we're hearing a lot of people asking about. So selfishly, thank you for answering that one for me, because that's something that we've been working through on our end as well. Everybody on the call, we have 15 minutes left. So if you have questions you want to make sure that you're getting answered by Lesley, go ahead and make sure you're typing them in so we can get them answered for you. So on the buyer side, are your buyer's agents also showing?
They are showing. And I actually loved a conversation you and I had about a couple months ago, Seychelle, because I know you guys do the showing agent model. We've never used that model. And really, I feel like we're maxing our buyer's agents out in the mid 40s for transactions. So our highest performers are doing, 45 units.
That's still really good. Yeah.
And then we're using the lead buyer agent model. So our lead buyer agent actually hires and coaches all of our buyer's agents.
Got it.
And she gets a piece of all of their commission when they close. And that's been great for us because it builds camaraderie on that team.
Absolutely.
And they're so supportive of one another. They're like a little family.
Absolutely. I think that's something that Charmy on our team has done too, and it's really neat to watch that grow. I think the more cohesiveness you can build, the better. And we're working to build that on the listing side too. And Marie is our senior listing agent on the listing side, and it's just awesome because she's played every role in the business. And so it's been neat watching as Shannon has come in on as our second listing agent this year. We're really trying to look at how we continue to grow that and create opportunity for both of them. So we're in similar paths as far as teams go. What haven't I asked you that I need to ask you?
I think one of the biggest failures, because people always learn from other people's failures, right? And I get that question all the time, like, what are the biggest mistakes you've made? And I think there are 2 that really stand out. Early on, I didn't have leverage, right? And I really burned myself out. I mean, by the time Andy joined me, I just wanted to throw my phone at him and say, take every client, I'm done. Because I know
that feeling.
Put my heart and soul into it, and I just didn't have leverage at home. I didn't have leverage at work. And I think if you've hit a ceiling in your business, you're missing a who. You're missing someone. So if you keep hitting that same unit number year over year, you're missing somebody. And sometimes it's not an assistant, right? Sometimes it's not a buyer's agent. Sometimes it's a nanny. I mean, I laugh and tell Andy all the time, I'm like, I'm missing a relationship. I need a wife.
Yes.
And he laughs, but I mean,
you're like, I'm not really kidding.
I think that personal assistant is really our next hire, and it's not on the org chart because it's at home. But if you're hitting a ceiling, you're missing a who. So so failures. That's huge. And then I think the second failure is not hiring a coach soon enough. Because when we hired Jean, I mean, not only did we increase business, and I mean, we're wildly profitable after we hired Jean, much more profitable than we'd been, but we had a life for the first time because he really made us understand that leverage piece.
That's awesome.
So I think those are probably our 2 biggest mistakes along the way.
I think that those are very similar across the board when we look at anybody in business, whether they're an individual agent or they're a small team or they're a large team or they're a huge expansion team, when you look at any of those organizations, you hear that a lot. You hear about missing leverage, missing help, and you hear about somebody to hold you accountable. And I think allowing yourself to be coachable and give yourself permission to be held accountable is a big part of that hiring a coach, and admitting to yourself that you're not perfect and you can't do everything for everyone all the time and still have a life. I think is hard for a lot of people, especially, I'm going to say it, women too, to admit that that is something that you just can't do at all. You can't be all things to all people. So embracing that, I think, is huge. And watching you do that's been really big. So how do you keep your life now? Your organization's growing bigger. It's not going backwards and getting smaller. How are you keeping your life now?
Yeah, I posted this on Facebook last week, and it really rang true to me. So Andy and I have been traveling a ton because we were at Maryland, D.C. masterminds, and then we were at South Florida masterminds, and flew straight from South Florida to Austin when we got to see you, which was awesome. And then we're in Chicago next week, and it just hit me that it's all about counterbalance, right? Everybody comes to me and says, people on our team or clients, like, how do you do it all? And how do you stay balanced? And it's like, well, there is no balance, right? And Gary taught us that in the one thing, that it's really counterbalance. So what I've come to really understand this year is that if I'm traveling for a week and I'm not really available for my kids and I'm not with them, that there's going to be a time when I'm with my kids more and I'm not really doing the business as much. And that's okay, right? This week I took a day off to run errands, and I've taken the kids to the orthodontist and all that stuff, but it's okay because it's all about counterbalance, right? And Gary said something last year that just struck a chord with me. He said, the magic happens in the extremes, right? So if we don't let ourselves get to an extreme, then the magic's not going to happen. So you think about family vacation. We have to go on family vacation because we make memories and we're not working and with our counterbalance, we're with our family. Right. And that's when the magic happens with our family. At the office, traveling to South Florida and straight to Austin, magic happened there because I was sitting in mastermind after mastermind. So counterbalance has been huge for me this year, and just giving myself forgiveness, right? Like, it's okay that I'm not there all the time. Heck, they like the babysitter most days more than me, Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Quinn sometimes will say, when are you leaving? Yeah.
But see you later, Mom.
Yeah. Please leave. I think it's important, though, that you're aware of where your time is being spent, and you're aware of where it's not being spent, so that you can counterbalance that. I think so many of us put our head down, and I'm certainly guilty of this on my end, of putting our head down and not paying attention to what's going on around us. And I'm just in a go mode, and I wake up, my first 3 years in business, I woke up, hadn't taken a time off, hadn't taken a day off, hadn't paid attention to my new marriage, and, had huge issues from that. So, we had to majorly counteract that the other way. So I think that's great advice for anybody that's in those stretch moments, to pay attention to it.
Yeah. And booking your vacations first, right?
Yes.
We're in an organization that's God, then family, then business. We have to make sure our schedule reflects that. So, before you book anything in the next year, you should book your vacations, because you're going to work hard enough. Gary says that you're going to have the money to pay for it, and you're sure as heck going to need it.
Yeah. And if you don't take it, no one else is going to force you to. That was the thing I learned. No one else cares whether or not you take vacation. So if you don't care about it, nobody else will. I can guarantee you that. And I went, well, shoot, you're certainly right about that. So
yeah,
I better plan it.
100%. And that's what was so funny. We got back from Austin, and I was like, gosh, we've been, so committed to work for the past week. And the first thing I did was start blocking vacation for 2018. And there you go, back to Counterbalance.
Yep. And that was something Gary, we talk about in our team. Gary recommended that we look at booking vacation for the next year by the end of November every year for the previous one. So, like for now, for 2018, plan all, as much of your vacation as you possibly can and time block it out on your calendar. Plan your time off first for 2018 by the end of November 2017. So that way you know what you're working towards, you know why you're working and when you're working, and you're that much more focused during the process. And that was probably some of the best. He's given us a lot of really great business advice. That's probably some of the best personal advice he's ever given for me. That was just a game changer.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
It too. What else haven't I asked you? Can you think of anything else? This is awesome, girl. This has been amazing.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, it's just been great. And we are so thankful. And so I'm going to put up your contact information really quick, because if anybody has referrals for Lesley or Andy anywhere in Georgia, they can hook you up. And if they can't serve the area, I'm assuming I'm speaking for Lesley when I can say she'll tell you who can serve it if they can't. So anywhere in Georgia, if you guys have people, definitely reach out to Lesley and she'll make sure that they're connected and well taken care of.
Yes, thank you so much. We would love the opportunity. In fact, this year, I think we're going to close over 40 agent referrals from across the country. So that's so fun. We love that business.
Well, we would love to add another 20 to that from our region for next year. So I am putting it out as a challenge. So if you've got anyone in Georgia, the Peters are now your contact out there. So we'll definitely work on getting you guys referrals too. And Lesley, this is
thank you, girl.
I can't thank you enough for your time, and our region thanks you as well, because this is just incredibly good time spent. And I know everybody on here is chiming in saying how appreciative they are and how great you are. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Seychelle. I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, girl. You too. And happy holidays too. We'll talk soon.
Happy holidays to you guys. Bye-bye, Seychelle.
Bye-bye.